Welcome to Podcast IRC, conversations with Indigenous scholars to advance understandings and gain new knowledge. Hosted by the Indigenous Research Center at Salish College. So yeah, that was an old Salish love song by Jerome Vanderburg. I don't know if anybody knew or know of Jerome Vanderburg, but he was born in
he's a Valley Creek guy, right?
Yeah. Born in 1890, Stevensville, Montana, and apparently he learned that song when he was just a young lad, and recorded in 1950 by Alan and Barbara. Is it Miriam or Miriam? Alan and Barbara Miriam. Alan and Barbara Miriam.
Is that part of the that whole Department of Ethnology movement where they were recording a whole bunch of music in the West?
I'm not sure. They were out of the University of Montana. They recorded hundreds of songs here. A lot of them that I haven't heard some of them yet. I have all the tapes and I just haven't listened to them all, but they recorded a massive amount of
So how many
music.
Of them flute songs are left? Do people still know them, or what's the status on them?
No, nobody knows. I mean, this is it. What you're hearing here now is nobody uses them. Nobody probably knows them. Of course, there's not a lot of people who know how to make the flutes in the old way to do the right keys or the right scale. So kind of a
is it comparable to other tribes' flutes and flute making, or was it a unique style of making the flute and all that?
Man, I'm not too sure. Not too sure. All I know is that the measurements of the holes, where to put the holes, you use the width of your finger. So the width of your finger determines the distance between the holes for the first 3 holes, and then the second 3 holes, I think you do the width of 2 fingers. Then you start again the width of a single finger. I don't know.
Well, that's
and
interesting.
you use that. Yeah, or is it the width of a hand? I can't remember. So each individual's flute was, made according to their hand. It's kind of interesting.
So here's maybe you can answer this. Are we still talking about the song or no?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Were these flutes and flute songs typically associated with love medicines?
Yeah, almost exclusively. In particular by the male.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them were as things were back in those days. They were, the origin of them was the spirits. Usually a bird, it's a spirit of some bird will show a person this song. I imagine that they did it when they were pretty young. They would gain this knowledge when they were pretty young.
Trying to get wives.
Yeah.
When I listened to that song, that was the first thing I thought. I thought that sounded like a bird song, and that's exactly what they're doing right now because it's springtime. You hear all those male birds out there singing their love song, singing their hearts out.
Yeah, it seems like among tribes in the Rocky Mountains, this idea of courtship through song is more prevalent because it's really weird. Native men in the Rocky Mountains seem to only express themselves a lot of times deeply emotional stuff, express themselves love, war exploits through song. Other than that, you don't really it's not real common, I think, to have sit down and talk about how you feel too much outside of smoking with the pipe or maybe composing songs and stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's and apparently I guess the flute was pretty much just the property of the man in the old days, and it was unheard of for a woman to be playing a flute or to possess a flute. And it kind of makes a lot of sense with just kind of how the bird behavior is. It's usually the male bird that's trying to sing these tunes and attract in the female. So I know there was some discussion by Alan Merriam and his wife about it being this male dominated kind of uh, an expression of male domination, but really it was more an emulation of really the origin of where, I think anyway, the origin of where these songs come from, where it was a courtship typically done by the male.
Yeah, that seems to be on par with most tribes in the Rockies and how they use flutes, and a lot of times if they're not birds, they're associated with elk.
Right.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, that's one other instance of that is there's a story of a guy here getting a song from an elk for mating, or not for mating, but for the love song. And most of the love songs. What?
I was trying to do a Barry White thing.
Oh yeah.
Not
So,
Betty
yeah,
White,
so what
Barry White.
Yeah. So there's also love songs that are sung, vocally, that not with the flute too, and either sex sings those, the love songs that are just sung with the lips, with the mouth, I guess. Yeah. I know. Sing it through your lips. Yeah.
Moving on.
Anyway, yeah. So let's see who's all here. Who's on the line here? Who do we got? Go ahead. Let's get a little intro, I guess, from Kamiah. Kamiah, if you're here.
Yeah, sure. So I am Kamiah Dumontier.
Hi, Kamiah.
Hi. I am an instructor at SKC. I have been for some time, and so I am from St. Ignatius Mission. I was born and raised here, spent most of my life here. And so I'm kind of connected to the area, just personally and through my teaching. I don't know, what was your idea of what we should...
That's it. You got it. But it sounded like you said you were from the St. Ignatius Mission.
Yeah, right. The Catholic Church. No, Mission Creek.
Right.
Let's clarify that.
A little more
right
accurate, I suppose. Yeah.
From the rectory.
Oh, that would
not from the rectory.
Nope.
No.
Darren, your vocabulary is just on par today.
It is.
I'm on.
All right. Well, cool. Well, let's hear from Brenda then.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
friend.
Hello, colleagues. So my name
Fancy.
is Brenda Shepard, and I'm the administrative assistant for the IRC. Born and raised here in the Flathead Reservation, and I'm a product of SKC, and it feels really good to be a part of the team.
Cool. Yes. Very good. Yes, and very good to have you. So let's hear from Aaron. What up? What do you do? What don't you do? Did he leave? Aaron Brien.
Yo.
You're on.
Hi, I'm Aaron Brien.
That was a good hi.
How are you guys? Okay. I'm Aaron. I teach at the college, and I'm just happy to be here with you fine folks.
Yes. Cool,
I
cool.
don't need to do a big long introduction.
No.
I imagine throughout the podcast I'll
Yeah.
talk way too much. So yeah.
No, that's good enough. Yeah. No, we don't need to do super formal. And then me, I'm Shandin Pete. I'm from Arley, Montana here.
Is it
recording.
Shandin or Shandin?
Well, it depends on how well you know me. If you know me well, you can call me Shandin, although that's not the way you pronounce it. Shandin, yes, Shandin Pete.
Shandin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're all members of the Indigenous Research Center And we're just taking a moment here to do our kickoff podcast episode and discuss, I guess, just briefly about what we've been doing, what we're up to. Yeah, I don't, I have a few questions just to kind of get you guys rolling. First of all, we'll just kind of talk about who you were, but more importantly, kind of let's let people know what you do for the center. So, Kamiah, what do you do? What do you do for us?
I seem to derail conversations. No, so so what I am tasked with, I suppose, is the education and training. So thinking about how to tell people about what we're doing in a way that makes them understand that work and hopefully be able to use it. So, developing the certificate, working towards some modules that we can use with the IRB community training as well. I kind of feel odd saying that like this is the stuff that I'm doing though, because it seems like we've all been working on that. Like nothing that I'm describing is being done entirely or mostly by me. It seems like all of this is really collaborative.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I think we have some specific roles on paper, I think, but for the most part, I think we're all pitching in on everything. And I think you have a very interesting perspective in particular about the communication of the products that we're trying to develop and how we can make that communication a little more consumable by the audience, in particular the tribal communities. And we'll probably have some future discussions about how we can achieve that, how we want to revolutionize, and how we write research up, and how we communicate what we do with to the community. I think that's pretty important.
For sure.
Cool. All right, Aaron, what do you do?
I'm on paper, I'm the research core team lead, right?
Yeah, that's yeah.
But I think in reality, I'm Robin.
Robin of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Is anyone going to disagree with that assessment?
No.
No,
I've never seen you in tights. So
well, the day is young, my friend. I feel like my job on paper is to facilitate research and to guide research, but I think what I really do is I do that, but I also I feel like I try to be a sounding board, and then I also just try to I don't know, I try to have some reality in the things we're thinking about, but I feel like I don't do a great job of that. But like Kamiah as well, I derail conversation most of the time.
Yeah, that derailment I think is it's the most important part. I think because for this podcast I scripted all these things that we should talk about, or I felt we should talk about, but really in the end the most interesting conversation is the derailed one, because that's really what's on our mind and what's important. So the railed conversation, not so much. Brenda kind of described what she does, but I think she has a unique perspective because, well, just like all of us, we're from the res, and I think that provides us with some really good insights on what we're trying to achieve. So, Brenda, what's up? What do you do?
Well, while you guys are derailing conversations, I'm bringing it back in. Feels good to be a part of the discussions and the conversations. I do a lot of the paper processing while you guys do a lot of the brainstorming. So it's a really good strength that we all have different perspectives, and it brings us all together. And so it builds a really strong unit from the different skill sets that we all have. So things that I do is, oh boy, what do I do? I'm nervous, you guys. I don't know. You put me on the spot and now I don't know. I'm like, oh.
Well, I guess so. This will be the important thing is, I mean, you do some paperwork, you have some administrative duties, but really, what do you really do? Like, what do you really feel like your contribution is?
Well, I really feel like my contribution to the program is my organizational skills. You know, my official role is the administrative assistant. So I'm here to administer, to assist the minister, the director, the core researchers, our student interns, the visiting scholars, and, you know, I just coordinate and accommodate any needs that any of you guys might have. So that's what I contribute.
So this isn't a job interview.
I know.
What do you do? Jokes, no, I was kidding.
Oh my God.
It's not an interview, but yeah.
You do like everything.
I do. I don't want to say that though. I don't want to say that though.
I mean, how many times, Shandin and Kamiah, have we had conversations and we're kind of like, in our minds, we're in like the academic dreamland. We're gonna like fix all of Indigenous research, and then Brenda pops in and goes, "Oh, you guys can't do that."
Right.
That's right. And then she puts us back into reality, saying, "This is how the grant works. This is the line item that you can go through." And it's like, "Oh yeah, okay." Yeah. And then we adjust to what she does. Or how many times have we said, someone said that and I can't remember, and then Brenda will say, "Oh, it was said at this on this thing at this time in my note," and it's like, "Oh yeah, that's why Brenda's here." So really, Brenda's the director of the Indigenous Research.
Right. I kind of feel like we've been having these conversations and we go off and we follow this idea and we're really deep into it. And then somehow she kind of, you know, extends an arm and leads us out of it to a place that is like practical, so that all these ideas, you know, all these big ideas that we were just lost in actually have some use. We can do something with that. And I mean, I think that's
I agree. And that was my thought exactly, because, you know, we've gone through some master's training, you know, and we're all high and mighty with our degrees and we get all academic. And I think Brenda kind of pulls us out of that and says, "Hey man, this is the res. This is the res, man.
Oh, quit it.
You can't be talking like that in Pishi."
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Yeah, and just knock it off. Yeah, so that perspective, that perspective, that practical perspective. I mean, it all comes and goes with us, you know, as we talk about various things. But I think your contribution in that way is pretty valuable. And just like Kamiah, who's always concerned about the, you know, how we communicate and just not worrying about certain things that I would worry about, I think is really, really valuable. It helps me to round out my own thinking and to kind of kick aside some crazy thoughts I might have. Kind of gives you a little tear forming, thinking of the old days.
That's good stuff, man.
It is, ain't it?
Wait, you're sending D or the sound?
Well, I mean, the combo's not hurting nothing, you know.
You get a little Sunny D splashing up in your eye. That'll make a tear well up.
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Stings the nostrils.
Yeah. What was that called? Odeon?
Odeon. It's made from real panther bits.
Bits of real panther. Yeah, man. So that's, these love songs are, like I was saying, they're gone, which is pretty sad.
Mm.
And I think, well, how the heck, what do you do to bring them back? And that takes a lot. And I think the hardest part about it is, people don't really understand the responsibility of, taking care of something like that. To us, if we don't really know or understand it, it just sounds like a cool tune. You're like, oh yeah, anybody can go learn how to carve up a flute and play something that sounds interesting and cool. But those old timers didn't, their belief, the belief was, you don't just go make up a song. That's not how it works. It was always about what kind of power is behind that, what kind of power is associated with that particular song, and really what's its purpose. And that's just a small part of that whole dynamic of songs that originate from that kind of spiritual realm, and the immense and lifetime responsibility that comes with that is, man, it's we just barely fathom. We just get little pieces of what that might be and how powerful those things were at those times.
Well, and then
Of
I
course,
think too,
yeah.
I think those the flute singing, these what they call love medicine or whatever, is associated also too with how tribes view love, romance, marriage, courtship, which is different than how modern natives, because we've adopted kind of the Euro form of romanticism, and so it would, it's not just a question of bringing it back, but does it have a place anymore?
Mm.
Because
Right, yeah.
we've substituted it with the American version of romance and courtship. I'll give you an example of kind of how Indian people see this. There's this story these old timers in Crow used to tell about flowers. So this guy would always go and well, they noticed on Memorial Day that these Crow people would say all the or all the white people are going and putting flowers on graves. And that was kind of a weird thing because they were like, wow, when people die, we don't like bother them. We kind of stay away from those places. So they thought that in itself was kind of weird. But some of these old men were kind of in the hardware store, or kind of the mercantile kind of store, and they seen this white guy come in there, and he bought flowers. And so they asked him, what are you doing with your flowers? And he said, well, it's Valentine's Day. I'm going to give them to my wife. And the guy left, and all these crowmen started laughing. And the store owner says, why are you laughing? And he says, because that guy must want his wife to die. And they're like, the guy's like, what? Because that's the only thing they associated the flowers with dead
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
it's just the tangible and the intangible, and how people love each other. It's all very different idea among native people. So that's why I say, yeah, it's one thing to say, can these flute songs come back? Love medicines come back. But then what would we do with them now? We would have to completely replace the romantic idea of how we view relationships and all that stuff today.
Right. Yeah. It couldn't just come back in some isolation. It can't be unsituated in how it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, and I agree with it completely. I wonder though, like this idea about fixing things in time, that these songs are, I mean, yes, these songs came out of a context that doesn't exist anymore. So if we bring them back, we're taking them from that world into this one and how all this stuff operates. But for anything to continue, that's what every generation always did. Because, like, my generation isn't the same as my parents or my grandparents. And I don't think that it always was. We didn't have, like, long periods of time that were just sort of static and unchangeable. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe the thing is, what I'm thinking about with the song and the flute is that that's personal. Like a person is attached to that. And so if that song's going to continue, it doesn't stay with that person. It can't. It's going to go away. So for it to continue, something changes. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that does, change. I don't know. It's just being a human. Our lives are so short. It's hard for me. It's hard to these imagine the time in the past and how things may or may not have changed, because all I know is just these little pieces of information that seem very static, and I sometimes forget to attach the era in which these things have happened and how that may have been that event may have caused this thing to happen in this particular way. And who's to say that can't happen again today? And sometimes I can get stuck in that thinking. And I'm a big fan of bringing things back, but I'm also a realist and think, yeah, well, how do we do that today? And do we have to put a lot of effort into that, or does it just happen naturally? That's kind of where I'm at.
But it's hard to say what's natural, and like what's if we've removed ourselves from the natural environment which those things thrive, then in that sense it can never come back because we're not even in that thing anymore. I mean,
right? Yeah. Who listens to the birds anymore?
I do. I heard them.
I do.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we do. We do.
You're gonna hear them on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
in the background.
we do, but at a frequency in which our ancestors listened to them. It's just part of their everyday chatter, from morning to night, and we hear it. That's not to deny we don't, but how do we just hear the sound, or are we embracing something bigger that's coming from that sound?
And it's real easy. Like any native music as a genre can be easy to like hold it as an island, but typically these songs are attached to something, right? And so in this case, these flute tunes, for one, they're attached to flutes, right? So the manner in which these songs are composed is a direct result of even how the flutes are made. The flutes themselves are a result of nature, right? And listening to nature, which is a result of interaction between humans and nature. So like, it's not just going to be like, can these songs come back? If that's just simply the question, then yeah, people can learn flute songs and play them.
Yeah.
But how it's done, it's more or less like, is it going to be the same? That's a different, I guess that's the question, right?
Right. What purpose are they going to represent?
Yeah.
If they did come back in today's world, because right now, to do any sort of courtship, or I don't know what the young people do in today, but in my day, it was like, the guy who has the nice car and, is a little bit popular and listens to a certain type of music. Well, that's the guy who's going to, be the successful, courtier. Is that what you call it? Courtier.
The courtier, but also
the accordion. I don't know. Anyway,
there's something else that native people have to compete with in this genre. Is not only the American version of romance, but now native people in Western Montana and the Crow Res, the Flathead Res, everywhere has adopted the Cree round dance version of serenading native women.
Right.
So to use Cree round dance style of singing as a form of romantic expression and courtship it's super popular, and I'm guilty of it too, man. I love round dance songs. They're awesome. They're good listening. But so now we're asking the question, can the Salish flute and flute music be revived and utilized again? well, first it would have to not only replace the Euro-American version of romanticism, but also dethrone the Cree round dance style among non-Cree people, which would be hard to do. Anyone in that world, anyone in that round dance powwow world knows, man, round dance is king in a lot of ways.
Right. No, that's true. That's so true. So I don't know. That seems to be kind of the kind of work we're trying to do, is really balance what we think of as important in a certain time period, fast forward it to now and say, well, is this how we're thinking? Is it realistic? Because we always envision, at least I do, our ancestors as these people who had something that we are reaching for. Like we want that because it helped them survive, whatever the things they went through, and we didn't have that. And in a way, we long for that, but we probably don't long for not having shampoo and soap, which they didn't have.
But they also didn't eat. They're not eating what we're eating, to where our sweat and our body odor is. I mean, they didn't have to contend with Doritos and Sunny D and
gross. Gross.
I mean, the other day, my daughter, and this is gonna expose me as a parent a little bit, but or like any parent, you let your kids snack once in a while. My daughter, like, we look and she's eating Cheetos and drinking Fanta, and that combination to me was like, oh, that's horrible. Like, it's gross, and like, take it away from her, But it's like
a lot of yellow dye.
Dude, our ancestors didn't mess with any of that stuff, Like, that is horrible, and that's my fault. I own up to that.
Yeah, so I guess in that regard, always balancing that, and that just seems to be the thing I don't like the most about some of the literature out there. Is it seems to be situated in an unrealistic time period. Maybe that's just my misunderstanding of it, but it's so hard to bring it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it seems that though the existing literature on research, I guess, as it relates to Indians, it seems as though it comes from a place, and I brought this up a number of times, of non-participants. And I find that the perspective of participants in what I mean is like in the culture that they're representing or whatever, and that can happen in various forms, right? But it seems though that the product is vastly different. And an example is like when John was here for the colloquium, he's not a researcher in the sense that we are, but but he is, like, how he was coming up with his conclusions, and especially in his efforts to learn different things, is like, that's pretty intense research. In fact, it kind of really exposes us in like the amount of effort we put into research, because he's going on years and years of one thing, like working towards the answer of one thing. So, and the outcome is different. How it's interpreted is different. But, and I know, Shandin, you've said this before, but his intent of the research was pretty different. So, and that seems to like never be like addressed, or if it is, it's always like in the cliff notes, or it's always kind of like something cute to say, Right, it's not the focal point, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the intent? Yeah, I think that's really important. Intent. What do you think, Serra?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about, maybe relating to the point you're talking about with intent. Like, I feel like so much of today, what we're in is just about like survival mode and learning to adapt and trying to piece together or recall those traditions that we have, but recognizing today that it's hard to always give those the time and the honor that those respect, or that those should have, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And going back to the point about like the love songs, things we're talking about, I mean, you just there's like all these crazy things today, like Tinder or like, snagging blankets and like all these other things. Like, it's just so different. It's such a different world that we live in today. And I think it's just about like balancing and trying to be adaptive in these times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Kamiah, what about you? What do you think?
I'm not entirely sure exactly how to think about all of these things, because there is certainly this balance that we're talking about, and I think that it's like I feel like it's kind of this negotiation. We're navigating something. We have this idea of where we want to go and what we want to bring with us. But to make that happen, to figure out how to get there, how to get this stuff there, is really hard. And maybe, I guess, to relate it to like my experience in teaching at SKC, like I've got this really nagging feeling that there's got to be a better way to do this, because pretty much I had to go somewhere else to get these things that would allow me to teach. So this knowledge and the degrees, right, kind of go into the academic. And then what I'm supposed to do is bring that stuff back to SKC. And I don't know, like, does anybody want it there? Is it useful? Is it practically useful? And so I kind of have that feeling like, going from whether it's this academic context or maybe it's a modern context, and then trying to get this, like, that's the thing that you that you're working with, and anything else can be like added to that or something like that. And it feels really weird to be doing that.
Yeah, it
Like, you
brings up
can't
an
have
issue.
both, working tandemly together, huh? Like, you've got these competing forces almost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that certainly we have all these influences from the academic world and the modern world, and they're strong. There's no doubting that. And yeah, if we focus on something else, if we say that recovering things that were lost is the most important thing, then only the academic stuff that helps us do that is going to be used. The rest of it,
Right.
But an academic isn't going to like that. Like, here, this is the way it goes, and I say, I don't really want it. That I don't see how that's going to go over very well. But then trying to see what the other side of that is. How can we say that, all right, where are we at? Like right now, where are we at SKC? What are we doing? What's our intent, like you're saying? And then just gathering the things that help us with that would move us forward. But I don't know. And again, there, I derailed conversation. Not really about songs anymore. Sorry.
I thought it was in line with what we're talking about. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this. So it's the stuff. Like, what? First of all, what are the things that we're trying to grasp onto? And the challenge is we have very little of that. We don't have not a lot of knowledge of those things. And then so that's the struggle. And just like these love songs, like there's maybe a handful or less of particularly these flute songs. So a person could grab onto that and learn those, but what's the point? Because the purpose is not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a married guy trying to learn them. Why are you trying to learn love songs, dude?
Wait a
married.
second.
You're married, friend.
And that's the thing. It's like I almost feel like we need to make the place for these things first before we try and bring them back. Like there's some preparation.
The place and the space and the time that's adequate and is needed to do it the right way, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the argument. Well, I don't know if it's an argument, but it's this debate about the Catholic hymns at funerals or wakes, and some young people or some people would say, no, we don't need that no more because these were people treated us badly. We don't need those. Well, that's cool and all, and that's a respectful thing or an endeavor, but what are you going to replace it with? Because people are accustomed to that, especially our older people are accustomed to that way. So if we just throw it away, there's going to be a big void. And what's going to fill it? Well, who knows? And that's, I think that gives some merit to what you're talking about how do we make a platform for these things first, and then start filling in that platform with these appropriate things that we can pull in from the past that really seem to work well. Aaron, what do you think? Or Brenda, what do you think, Brenda?
Oh boy. Well, being single and middle-aged, I'm thinking
I want to know some
here.
love songs.
I want to know some love songs. No.
We'll create the time and space.
We'll create the time and space.
There's the place. That's it. We found the place for the love songs.
There's a home out there.
Oh, that's funny. I think it all just comes back to family values, and upbringing your children to have these customs, because I think that courting is not really alive anymore. I don't feel like people do that kind of thing anymore. And some people do, it just kind of depends on how you were brought up, and whatnot. So I guess just listening to it and listening to the flute song, I joke around with people like, oh, your flute song worked, and I mean, the context is still kind of out there, but the application is very much lacking, and so I really liked Aaron's kind of comparison with round dance songs. I hear all sorts of round dances, and some of it's joking and some of it's, hold on one second. Shush. My kid.
She's like, shush, mommy's killing it.
Hey. Oh my god, it's weird. I'm all sitting in my bedroom talking about flute songs.
Why is that weird?
I don't know. I just feel weird. But round dance songs, I feel like they're just so dang catchy, and I mean, shoot, if a guy really wants, I feel like that's the new way to court is, I'm going to sing someone a round dance song and I'm going to put my own little Shazam to it, and so I kind of feel like that's the new way of doing things rather than the old way,
It's become that, and in defense of round dance singing, it's not solely for courtship and serenading, but it seems as though that's all people they associate it with, the
right, yeah.
From what I understand, the origins of that Cree style, it's really out of memorial. Like, so a lot of these songs were about missing people and like being lonely. And so that morphs over time, right? Into you miss your sweetheart or whatever. And then, but there's something about effort, right? And courtship is really like effort.
Very much so, yeah.
It's showing effort and the amount of courtship. And to me, these old time, like even like the dance, like round bustle style, chicken dance, crow style is all born out of the same thing of watching the sage grouse, and that's what it was doing was mimicking the times when the sage grouse was courting. And so like it came down to like dancing, singing, um, composing songs, not just singing, but composing. And that's a lot of effort, but it was all born in this, like, in the same context. It's born out. It's from the same mold. And it's weird how like Indians today, like we adopt like, I mean, we're like all over the place when it comes to that stuff. And actually, this is full circle to our research. Our research is following that same model. We're all over the place. Right. So if you think of research, like the research topic is this partner that you're seeking, and the way you do your research is the courtship and how you get there. Man, it almost reflects it. It's like all over the place. We've adopted different tribes things, and like we're not doing it the way, you know what I mean? And the outcome is just as dysfunctional as a lot of these dysfunctional relationships born out of all that craziness, Well, it's like, yeah,
it has the potential to be that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's now a quote unquote hookup society, is what it's transitioned into. And
I feel like this is turning into a Brenda therapy session.
I know. I know. I'm like, do you guys know? You're all married up.
She's sitting there looking outside her windows at Peachy like, oh god.
Yeah, effort though. That's it plays into this whole foundation that we're trying to really get a grasp on, is the worldview. And I think this is one that's really, really important, is effort, and then what's the intent of that effort?
The intent.
Yeah, because it wasn't just, maybe it was to hook up. I don't know what these old timers in the old days were up to, but I'm sure they were very much like us. I can't imagine them very, very much different, in some regards, but I think the values and the uniformity of thought was a little stronger. But in the end, they're just humans.
Those old timers, just like us, were not experts in romance or partnership, right? But what they did have that we don't have is a society that allowed those things to function better.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They'd want to fix it. Yeah, they want to fix things instead of just going and getting a new one, I guess, is kind of one thing that I noticed.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
I was going to mention today now too, we don't really have our communities intact like they were historically. So we were constantly getting that feedback for, developing those songs, developing those courtship practices. Like now we are all scattered. We're not all on the same reservation anymore. So we don't really have that feedback loop going as much. But that is what I, and believing within our center, like that's what we're striving to get, is that feedback loop.
Yeah.
And are you is that like reciprocity, kind of reciprocal? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of. And like getting responses back from our own community on things that are moral or things that are within the bounds of appropriate protocol or things like that.
Mm-hmm. And all the while having to accept, though, that cultural evolution does happen. Things do change and evolve in times. So it's doing all of this, but at the same time, we do have to accept that some things do change, right? Because some culture is born out of the environment. Well, really all culture is, but some of these practices are born out of an environment that these things can be created. So if that environment is gone, then how does that thing thrive? So some Native people, and I've talked to a lot of older people that are cool with some of these changes, because they said that doesn't exist anymore. That thing where that organism where that thing thrived doesn't exist anymore. So really all we're going to do is kind of create an orphan out of a practice. And that's not good either,
Yeah. Yeah, that's dangerous. It can be dangerous.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. at least spiritually speaking, you know, if you're inviting something like that and you don't have the means to take care of it the way it needs to be, you can really hurt yourself. Pretty interesting. Well, let's go on to topic 3. What's one highlighting moment in the research center? No, I'm just kidding. My script. Yeah. Well, this is good. I think this is a good way to really get the conversation going. Is some of these songs are, you know, I think they highlight a really important part of an understanding that should guide our how we go about, you know, producing new knowledge, but even reviving old knowledge.
I mean,
just
how
go
cool
ahead.
would that be to have a IRC sponsored research project on music, just on like tribal music genres and understanding it, how these things function. And I don't see like researchers or even social scientists like ever take on the mantle of like trying to break down songs and understand them, at least, and for sure from a tribal perspective. Like,
Yeah.
that's, and it's like there's so much information packed into song, you know, and how these songs are born could tell you a lot about a society and how it's interpreting the world around it. Just like the flute song is a direct reflection of a physical environment. And it's like, wow, you examine the flute genre music or genre, and then the tools needed to understand that, man, you can break down quite a bit of cool things, I would imagine.
We just did, I think.
Yeah.
I never even considered love or, you know, that compassion as part of. I mean, I do consider it, but, you know, as far as like an academic approach to researching something, it's pretty deep, and I think we will find that same kind of thing in any sort of discipline or, you know, a feeling or emotion or a value that we look at. Songs are important, man. And a lot of people don't understand in the olden days, you know, I always talk about the old days, but, you know, these people, everybody knew how to sing these songs. It was just like a critical form of communicating. And nowadays, you know, it's just the popular round dancing powwow music. It's all over the place.
Well, even that, understanding powwow music and like where those things are born out of, like the grass dance society and how the Omahas like kind of created this whole thing, and it moved throughout the West and moved to the Midwest from the Ponca to the Pawnee and the Ojibwe down to the Kiowa, and then how it created like powwow. Just that in itself, nobody, like, you talk to the average Indian person and they'll say, for one, nowadays they don't listen to powwow music, even that. So the average person from 15 to 35 is probably a non-powwow music listener. They're not going to know for sure that these things were born out of a war society that the Omaha and the Ponca created, you know?
Right. Yeah.
We must
way deeper.
We must have been supposed to be talking about songs. This document I had right behind my computer that I had forgot was there is actually like Peter Nobokov did all this stuff on Crow Tobacco songs, but of course it's in the appendix of the document. But it's pretty cool. Like, he writes down the lyrics. Like he takes lyrics like this song 16 of what he called the Robert Lowy recordings. This song says "Little Prairie Chicken." The song says, "Little prairie chickens, your breasts are outward, a little put," so like a little like forward, "and your tail is square." Well, when is a prairie chicken's chest forward and his tail up in full kind of bloom? You know, well, that's the springtime.
Right.
Pretty cool.
It is.
I don't know why I brought that up, but I'm just kind of.
I don't know either. That's pretty cool. I don't know either, but I want to read that now.
I know, it's like all these songs, man.
Yeah.
You guys hear the shuffling of papers?
I hear. That's the sound of academics.
That's
shuffle it again.
The shuffling.
Making my diploma sweat.
Yeah. Yeah, so So these songs, I think that would be an awesome sponsored IRC project, is to address song, or at least the start of it,
Yeah. I think we should start it. We should sponsor it ourselves for us to do. I don't know if we can do that. We have a lot of things to do. Anyway, I mean, we've been on for 37 minutes now. What any closing thoughts? We can wrap this up, and I think we got some good ideas for the next round, and we can toss those around and see what we come up with. But any closing thoughts, Serra? She's still there. Any closing thoughts, Kamiah?
Yeah, searching for a way to like wrap that all up and bring it together. And yeah, it's not working.
We can do a part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so much of this that I feel like if I start talking about it, it's just gonna keep going off in this other direction rather than come back around with all of this stuff. So yeah, I better not, because I keep starting. Nope.
I better
I'm
not
be quiet now.
Okay. Brenda, any final thoughts? We can continue this in another episode, but
Brenda looked like she went to go get her power cord.
Oh, nope, I'm back. Serra said, sorry, my audio freaked out. No, just wrapping back around with it. I think that there's, one way to bring it back is to start educating people, and finding a way to do that would be good, other than like open discussion, I guess. So, another session would be good.
Yep. Yep. Serra, any closing thoughts? Is she there now?
No, she says, sorry, my audio freaked out. So I'm not sure, she's having technical difficulties again.
Yeah. Okay.
She's typing.
Is she? Oh yeah, I see that. I'm trying to speak, not coming through.
Well, I'm sure Serra would agree.
Serra agrees wholeheartedly with everything we said.
She typed. She does agree. Yes. Yes. Serra, type in. Would you like a round 2 of this discussion?
Serra is typing.
Count me in. Yes.
What if we do it in 10 minutes? I'm just kidding. No. Okay. Aaron, bring us home.
Well, I think I'm in a similar position as Kamiah, where I'm really afraid to get talking too much, because for one, I talked way more than I should have during this thing. But I guess what I would say is we didn't even address like our time at Indiana University, where we visited the ATM, right?
Right.
And the things we learned in those few minutes that we spent there. Right. Now, again, imagine a research project where you're dedicating full efforts, time, finances, mental space to that one topic. Man, I don't know if that's ever been done. Do you?
Not that I know of. I mean, there's a couple people out there doing that kind of research, but I haven't done a thorough search of those.
Ethnomuseology seems to be kind of like this dying art.
Yeah, and if you read through old Merriam's book, it's I don't know. It's not from an indigenous perspective. It's not from native perspective. It's
it never started. No. Never got going. I feel like it's never got going. There's people who've dabbled in it, and what they are is usually like retired powwow singers who start to like investigate like more authentic forms of music. Right. So, and in a lot of ways, you can say you and I are in that position, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would say a round 2 of this discussion to talk more about the role of tribal music and how it can impact research.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I get a hand raise?
I'm gonna
Who's-
raise this little hand.
who's-
It's like a little orange hand.
I second that.
Sarah, Brenda,
Little orange
Kamiah
hand.
is out.
Boom.
Did I?
Kamiah just
Oh,
Kamiah.
there it goes.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
Oh, so
Okay.
Sarah can
Alright.
hear us. She can hear us, but we can't hear her. It sounds like.
Yeah. So she raised her hand. So that's it.
Yes. Yes.
Shandin, if you want it, that's as good a closeout as you're gonna get
I know.
anywhere
I
in the
know.
podcast universe.
I know.
And I dare you. I challenge you to find a better closeout than that.
Okay. I will. Okay.
All right, I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. So we'll call that good there. Then I'm gonna play this little outro, but we don't have to listen to it. But that's what I was gonna play.
Peace out. See you guys.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. And to learn more, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at IRCSKC. You can find us also on Facebook and YouTube by searching SKC Indigenous Research Center. You can also visit our website at irc.skc.edu. Don't forget to join us next time as we continue our discussions on Indigenous research, Indigenous research methodologies, and Indigenous worldviews.